Well, hello, that's me again, and today will be kind of off the cuff, and for those people who think that I don't script my talks to you guys, they are really wrong. Usually I do have a script and I kind of run it mentally through the points, but today the bulk of it will be obviously dedicated to the fate of the hapless missile cruiser Moskva, which, in accordance to a variety of the stupid media outlets in the West, and especially Ukrainian propaganda, which is pretty much the same, they are one and the same, was sunk by the allegedly anti-shipping cruise missiles from Ukrainian side. Well, what can I say? Most likely it is totally wrong. But let me elaborate a little bit. And again, make no mistake, I wrote about it yesterday in my blog, and I want to seriously reiterate that. This is a context. It's not what I think and not what I speculate about. I'm just giving you a context. What happened, we will not know for a while, and the only source we will know what happened will be Russian Ministry of Defense. The rest of it, as was the case with the Kursk submarine and Kursk disaster, will be basically speculation. I want to immediately point out to such thing as the famous French documentary, which was called The Submarine in the Murky Waters, which became very popular. I'm pretty sure you can get it still on the YouTube. Let me put it this way. It's an utter, absolute trash. Speculation of some moron who wanted to make political points in it. By the way, it's very anti-Putin thing. And obviously it's just complete crap. One of the reasons for this is especially those statements by former commander of the Northern Fleet, Admiral Popov, who still is looking for this mysterious Western submarine, NATO submarine, whatever, SSN of the Los Angeles class Memphis, or what have you, whatever was the fantasy working that time, who supposedly, and what kind of sub supposedly sunk Kursk. So, other than that, it is a very settled matter, especially by people with extremely high level of competence and extremely high level of clearance, such as Vice Admiral Ryazantsev, who was in charge of the inspection of the combat readiness for the Russian Navy at that time, and he himself used to be the commander of both nuclear-powered submarine and then the division of such. So this is not like some amateurs telling you that indeed it was the torpedo and a general chaos which was happening and reigning supreme at that time in Russia in 2000, and especially in the Russian Navy. And this is just one example. I also communicated with Igor Kurdin a little bit on that. And so if you think that Kursk have been sunk by some Western submarine, well, it's not quite true. But here we are with Slava, which is an old ship. I knew her personally, very up close and personal, from the inside in 1981, in the summer of 1981, namely in Sevastopol, where Slava was already then afloat, still not enrolled into the, fully enrolled, so to speak, accepted by the Navy, but she was feeding out, completing its feeding out, and we have been on it, my class, where we were at that time in the practice, summer practice, naval cadet practice. And at that time, obviously, in 1981, which is, mind you, 41 years old, 41 years ago, she looked absolutely stunning and state-of-the-art, which she was. But obviously, 41 years, look at me, my gosh, I can show you photos of me, in 1981, you wouldn't recognize me. So time takes its toll. And Slava, which is Moskva, which was renamed Moskva later, was becoming obsolete with the exception of the fairly good radar, of the general situational radar, especially which was capable to pretty much cover a significant area for the air and surface situation, and somewhat still relevant S-300 Ford with the famous teeth yeah, on the back of on the stern, near the stern of the ship, she was pretty much obsolete. And she never underwent the modernization as, for example, Marshal Ustinov, her sister ship, underwent, and it became thoroughly digitized and a fairly new ship in this respect. Moskva was kind of like more ceremonial type thing, and of course those 16 Vulcans, P-1000 missiles, anti-shipping missiles with reserved and land attack mode, they were definitely still a threat. But other than that, what happened, we don't know. But here are three possibilities as a context, not as the hypothesis. Make no mistake. First, very low probability, but still it's not completely excluded, is the fact that, yeah, somehow Ukraine, which still has its very raw, very unfinished, and pretty old, because it's based on the Russian X-35 subsonic anti-ship missile, Neptune anti-shipping missile, or the salvo of those, couple of those, at least may have gotten, and lucky, or maybe got their targeting from, the Poseidon, which was in the area, and indeed hit Moskva. I don't give much credence to that, and there are a number of technical reasons for this. I'm not gonna dwell on them. I just can give you only one thing. The last information about Neptune was that it was still not really truly operational. There are issues with guidance, and it's slightly larger than Russian X-35, and it's 1980s design, really. So it's still a very powerful missile. But the issue here is that even under the most adverse conditions, for example, and if to assume, of course, which I think so was correct, because Moskva was acting within the order of ships, that is why most of the crew have been saved, because nearby ships of Black Sea Fleet, Moskva would have seen, the same as other ships, would have seen the salvo, even on the edge of the radio horizon, and Moskva is the tallest ship was the tallest ship in the Black Sea Fleet, so her radio horizon, you can always look up the radio line of sight formula. It's easy to find from NASA or from any other sources on the internet, and you can calculate approximate height of the main radar antenna of Moskva and radio horizon, at which she would see the not stealthy and subsonic missiles of the Neptune class, or even if to imagine absolutely incredible hypothesis that actually these were British harpoons which have been delivered. So you will see yourself that in this particular case there would have been more than enough time to go into what's called high, to go from the low voltage to high voltage on the S-300 fort and develop the launch data and basically kill those missiles, because while not modernized, I believe the fort, even this old fort on Moskva, still was and had the ability to operate latest missiles, latest anti-air defense missiles, which have no limitations on the height, and so they were designed to fight the sea skimmer missiles, such as we would assume Harpoon or Neptune would be. And if you look at the area where Moskva was, and the area is near the was near the what is called Zmyny Island, which is literally Snake Island. For some reason, it's called Bile Island. You can look it up and Google. It was Moskva was really near the shores, about 22 statute miles, and that gives us about 18 miles, 18.5 miles nautical miles from both shores of Ukraine and the shores of Romania. And that gives us another, not clue, but context. And especially the fact that if one considers how actively United Kingdom tries to promote itself as the not lapdog, but basically separate and independent state, and which tries to lead the charge against Russians, including both militarily and politically. And there were definitely some contacts and serious, actually, motions between Romania and Great Britain as recently. And they have a pretty decent underwater frogman, or whatever in Russian is called PDSS, which is the underwater diversionary forces and means. And that means all kinds of the vehicles, ranging from the remotely controlled drones to transportation vehicles, which can deliver frogs or frogmen. And depending on the circumstances, they can attach pretty much anything in underneath the ship, and you would basically be done. If you do not have the really serious, what is called PDSS, or anti-frogman watches carried out on the board of the ships, and you have dedicated ship which has the specially designed sonar, anti-diversionary sonar. I'm sure Moskva had some, I don't remember, but considering the fact that she wasn't really updated, it might have been not adequate for the anti-diversionary review of the sonar, control of the underwater space, and we don't know. And that's the thing which I'm trying to push here. We don't know. We know only the sequence which Russian Ministry of Defense gave us. And the sequence is such: the fire, and then explosion, detonation of the, most likely the front stores of both 130 millimeter shells, and possibly of the depth charges, jet depth charges from RBU 6000. That's what happened. At least that's what we know for now. And that brings us to the third contextual thing. Usually Russian military counterintelligence organs, or особый отдел, special departments of the fleets and the formations, like Division, 30th Division, where Moscow belonged to, they're usually pretty good. But do not forget, we cannot completely exclude the possibility, and that one is already hypothesis, of the diversionary forces acting from the inside. Let me put it this way: Sevastopol, do not forget, it has quite significant Ukrainian population, and many very honest, ethnically Ukrainians who are really Russian patriots and really good people, serve in the Black Sea Fleet. But you cannot exclude the possibility. How probable? Well, there is some probability to it, that somebody got really influenced by either relatives who have been residing in Ukraine or the news from the fronts, and we might have the situation that, well, let me put it this way: if you have access to the ammo storages on the ship, it's very easy to start the fire, and it's really easy to detonate. It's really not that difficult. So, but this is contextual thing. Do not forget, during the Kursk disaster, while there was still a tragedy unfolding and nobody knew exactly what was happening, there were a very well-known fact that two Dagestani engineers, and those people are Muslims, and it was 2000. The next war between terrorism on North Caucasus in Chechnya and Russia was unfolding too. There were two Dagestani engineers on board, and being Muslims, there were actually, assumptions and even hypotheses pushed forward that, hey, they might have been the ones who, blew the whole damn thing, although most likely it wasn't them at all, and they were probably just as normal patriots of Russia and just decent people, tragically died, but it was one of their basically products, manufactured items, the fat torpedo, which actually created this whole situation with Kursk, which led to a tragedy and the loss of all hands with the submarines. So we do not know yet, so we have to wait and see. I want to, however, point this out. that definitely the presence of the American and other NATO assets in the area, they always are present there, they are being tracked and all that, does not necessarily infer that they gave the targeting. They certainly have some channels of communications with their Ukrainian counterparts, but we will need to wait and see. And the only thing which we know at this stage is the fact that obviously the ship did lose the stability, most likely overturned or capsized and then sunk. But about the crew, I'm pretty sure that most of the crew is safe because obviously there were other Russian ships in the area, and we have to still wait and see what results will be published or will be given out by Russian Ministry of Defense, which I think so is not coming soon, because obviously these are of the propaganda nature too, because as you might expect, there were many Ukrainian outlets which immediately have been basically picked up by Western mass media, especially mainstream media, who immediately started to say that, oh yeah, so these were, Ukrainian cruise missiles and things of that nature. If it happens this way, and indeed we have the situation that Ukraine used either Neptune on the Western targeting or even harpoons, who knows? I mean, we don't know what was delivered there. Then yeah, there will be very serious ramifications to all that, and but we will get there when we get there, So I don't want to speculate. I just gave you three distinct possibility or context rather for the possibilities. Neither of them is confirmed, and this is just context. It's not even speculation. What I think is what I think. You don't have to take me in this particular case seriously, because I'm as ignorant on such matter as we all are. So that is it in regards to missile cruiser Moskva. And the old lady, as sad as her fate is, she was bound for some kind of finishing repair to extend her life maybe a year or two, and then probably she was slated for the retirement or decommissioning anyway. So she was an old lady, and I knew her when she was Slava and she was young. Well, it's a sad fact, but it has no basically effect, except for the propaganda effect, on the development of the Russian operation in Ukraine. And many people who think that first it could have been just absolutely coordinated and coincided with the fact of the massive surrender of the Ukrainian troops in Mariupol, possible as an impetus if we assume the issue of the inside job, but who knows. And yesterday attack on the on Kiev and other Ukrainian cities, primarily the military-industrial complex facilities, has nothing to do with Moskva and any assumptions. It has everything to do with the fact that two of the Ukrainian helos, again, got through, which is not very difficult to do in the forestry areas of Bryansk Oblast, and attacked civilian population and civilian border town of Klimovo. So that was the response, and each time it will be more and more, massive, and even into the government quarters and military quarters in Kiev will be attacked if this activity will continue. So obviously it has very little military significance. It's only basically pinpricks for propaganda purposes. But here we have to go further a little bit, and just to explain to you what bacchanale is, happening all around us in terms of media. I stumbled yesterday on a very funny thing. It's almost Bollywood type, delirium, and that was India Today from Times of India thing. You can look it up on online. And it was a breaking news. It was some, this music, foreboding, and the lady comes out and says, "Oh my gosh, we have a breaking news developing. Sergei Shoigu had a heart attack, and it wasn't natural. Plus 20 Russian generals have been imprisoned, some of them friends of Putin in Moscow, and you sit like, and you listen to this thing, and then in the end they give us their source. It was information from Israeli-Russian businessmen. And if it's true, they add, well, guys, what? I think Sergei Kuzhegedovich Shoigu is doing okay. He is a pretty healthy man, and together with Putin, they're into sports, into hiking, into hunting, and they're doing okay. Where did they get those 20 generals? I don't know. Why not 50? Hey, what, you know. So that shows you the situation with the propaganda and Western media, and this time of India media, some of them which might be, you know, they might be of pretty Western leaning, so to speak, but the truth is, as today, yesterday actually, both the representative of the State Duma and actually representative of the, which is more important, investigative committee of Russia stated, out of those 3,000+, and they continue to surrender as we speak, all kinds of different units, different formations of the Ukrainian forces which are taken prisoners of war. More than 1,000 of them is like already on the Russian territory, in Russia proper, not just in the LDNR. And FSB and investigative committee work with them, and as he stated, and it was all over the news in Russia, obviously you will never hear it here, is that many NATO servicemen, including officers, have been taken prisoners, and as I already suspected, and it was already specifically stated yesterday, they will be paraded and their depositions will be taken during the proceedings of the War Crimes Tribunal. And considering the fact that we already know, and Russian Ministry of Defense and even the commander of the forces of the chemical, biological radiation and defense is the huge, you know, department, the huge force in Russia, already speaking for the press that names are known, including political people from the United States and European Union, NATO in general, who are connected to the biological weapons program, and especially considering the fact that number of the inhumane experiments have been conducted on the patients of the mental clinics in Ukraine by means of infecting people with the new strains of those new illnesses which have been developed in those biolabs. We have a wowzer on our hands, and that also explains the degree of the hysteria in the West, not to mention the fact that, of course, basically whatever is being delivered by those completely discredited and completely sophomoric, if not clownish, American generals and NATO so-called experts and all kind of talking heads who consider to continue to spew BS about the military operation there, is the fact that the names will be published. And even those which we know already point out to a very high political and military levels in the United States. This is a huge issue, the same as the huge issue of the military supplies for the Ukraine, for the operation. And we need to keep in mind here in this particular, so to speak, time frame, and this particular point, with Mariupol being pretty much cleared, except for the Azovstal, but then again, everybody decides now what to do with those guys. This night, another 200 tried to break out. They've been annihilated. Most of them, others were taken, survivors were taken prisoners of war. So there is no way out of there. And that's the only kind of point, soft spot, so to speak, in Mariupol, which otherwise is kind of beginning to return back to normal life. And forces have been reoriented towards the eastern cauldron. We need to understand that the more the pressure will be applied, which is being applied as I speak to you, to the eastern cauldron of the VSU, of the Ukrainian forces, and especially the more those reinforced areas, which have been done under the NATO guidance, will be taken, the more hysteria we will be getting here, and the more, pardon my French, bullshit will be spewed around about how Russia is about to collapse and run out of everything. And that's what I wanted to make clear. West is financing this operation. That's what they only now begin to understand. And I will make a separate video on that issue pretty soon, I hope so, by Monday. We'll see, maybe depending on the circumstances, even tomorrow, but most likely Monday, that this is the thing which drives them completely nuts. And as I already stated, I will discuss it a little bit later. But for now, I wanted to give you this general idea about the fate of Moskva missile cruiser, and about the fact that basically the operation proceeds as planned. And again, all those details later. So this is what I wanted to talk about today, and as usual, those who can afford, please support me on Patreon and subscribe to my channel on YouTube. That will allow me to produce videos, and I have a mission to make. I was going to make the more elaborate video. I figured out how to put all those pictures and even pieces of clips inside the video without removing my ugly face from the screen. But as you understand, the pressure was on me to make a response or to make the comments on the Moskva fate, and that's what I did today. So guys, you know, what can I say? Have a nice weekend, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.